Hello mate, welcome back to the channel. So today it is Gamescom Day 3 and the Xbox Live Showcase is on, and within the last couple of hours we've had a PoE 2 showcase showing off some of the bossing, its new stuff. I took a look on the Path of Exile YouTube afterwards and they haven't posted anything up, so just in case they don't, I've got it here for you. We'll watch it together and then we'll have a little chat about it afterwards. Alright, let's get into it.
Bosses in Path of Exile 2 come about two major ways. You obviously have the more traditional approach where you create a narrative and you design a boss around that
These
narrative.
different camera angles
No
are cool.
noose this time. I'll remove your head myself!
Oh, look at that attack.
The second way, which I think is something that can be very unique and create some of the more interesting encounters, is letting the creative genius of our artists do what they need to do.
Right, so this is the stuff that I just absolutely love to see. This, I'm so glad we're getting to see this behind the scenes thing. If you're anything like me, you just love the kind of like artwork and getting to see the concept artists doing stuff.
They can come up with something completely abstract, and this is how you get some of the most awesome things, because all of a sudden it can be something with 100 tentacles or 9 limbs or no limbs or 1,000 teeth or none, and obviously things that aren't even in my imagination.
Dodge through the beam, so cool.
Well, a boss in Path of Exile 2 ultimately is the culmination of decades of experience, making hundreds, if not thousands, of bosses in its predecessor, taking all that knowledge together, and puts it in a package that delivers the best of what could possibly be of boss encounters in an action RPG environment with bosses that are utilizing Souls-like mechanics.
Souls-like mechanics. And that Souls-like it.
Despite the fact there's over 100 bosses and more to come, a lot more to come, every single boss fight is completely unique, hand animated from scratch. It is designed from scratch, it is balanced from scratch, and it doesn't reuse a single asset in our library or anything like that.
Yeah.
One of the main challenges balancing boss fights in Path of Exile 2, especially compared to its predecessor, you have to, in a single attempt, reduce the boss from full life to 0 in order to then progress through. If a player cannot defeat them now, then they're stuck. It is very, very important to us that Path of Exile bosses, mechanics, especially around telegraphing, feels fair to the user, as opposed to them being cheated out of something when they happen to die. We want to make sure that hitboxes are accurate, and of course when something hits you, it feels like it hits you.
Yeah, accurate hitboxes, thank you.
It ultimately makes it feel that much more satisfying when you kill it, and you feel that much more pride when you are able to overcome something difficult, knowing that the game hasn't robbed you of this thing. At the end of the day, you want to see that healthy balance where some people are struggling, and you want to see that moment, that second-hand moment where someone overcomes that challenge and is so happy for doing so. And so I'm looking forward to that.
Oh my god. Okay, so some new footage there, a lot of old bosses. We didn't get to see any of the new bosses in action, but yeah, couple of things to pick up on. First thing, like Mike was saying, we know this from the GGG interview, that you can no longer portal out of bosses, so you either have to log out and go back to town, or you log out and then when you load back into the boss, then you will end up like essentially just pause the game. So yeah, it's going to be a very, very different experience getting through the campaign. How they balance that for like newer players versus veteran players, I think even for us, you know, old school players, it's going to be such a big, like a different kind of game mechanically to play that I don't know, I'm very aware that I might be surprised, and maybe you'll be surprised, that initially we won't be as good at the game as we think we are. A lot of the people that have play tested it in the LA events, for example, have said it's really tricky. So I'll let this carry on playing in the background, but one of the things I love about what he was saying about the creatives within the team and the artists, and allowing the concept artists and the designers and the animators and all the kind of art department within GGG to just go wild with ideas and let that inform the story. Now, I feel like PoE as a game in general has evolved very much in that sense. It's been design led. So a lot of their narrative decisions for PoE has come from what do they want the league to be, what do they want the mechanic to be, and then finding parts of the world and parts of the story to then tell that story. And so I think it's cool that even though we're getting such a front-loaded story, deliberate kind of narrative that's going to be designed by the narrative leads at GGG, they've also left a lot of room for creativity, maybe not in the act bosses, you know, but like for the team, for maybe some of the smaller bosses or the side bosses to just go wild. I mean, we've seen some of these designs are ridiculous. Like the the one with the weird sort of floaty demon with like the giant baby head things on the side of it. Like you said, yeah, kind of, I don't even know if I'd be able to come up with that in my wildest dreams. So hopefully I don't have dreams about that. And on that as well, another thing that he talks about is how, you know, we're getting 100 bosses and people are like, whoa, 100 bosses. And you look at the caliber of these bosses and they look incredible. But this is just the beginning. This is at launch, right? Maybe in early access, we won't have every one of the bosses. I'm not sure if that's confirmed or not, but, you know, we know the game isn't going to be fully fleshed out at the initial early access, which we'll talk about in a second. And once the game launches, every 3 months or 4 months, we're going to be getting new leagues, new patches, which are going to continue to build on the content. You look at where PoE 1 was to where PoE 2 is today, 11 years later, like you said, and there's a lot of content, there's a lot of bosses, and there's a lot of cool things yet to come, and the team is still evolving. They're always going to be evolving. They look like they're really keen on bringing talent in, but also building talent up from within the studio. You've seen that with Mark himself. And so yeah, we've got a lot of exciting boss fights and other content to come going forward. So now looking to the future, that brings us to I guess early access conversation I have been watching. I think definitely go and check out Ziggy D's interview with Mark and Jonathan. That was really interesting. We got to hear about the new game design decisions, and that was just before Gamescom. And then we've had new information from people that have been to Gamescom. I'll put a link in below, but Try has done a really good cover of just that initial burst of news that we got. Things like support gem allotment, like allowances. We have capacity now. The way attributes are working is changing. They've got some of the UI designs and stuff like that for the new menus that are weapon based for when you're cutting your skill gems, which thank God, like I think that's going to work so much better, and it makes so much more sense for like a kind of not a game where skills aren't tied to classes. So for games like Diablo or people coming into PoE from other games, you usually associate skills with classes, but because skills are tied to weapons in PoE 2, it's just a much more intuitive system, I think. That's going to just about do it for this video. I wanted to talk briefly about what's been going on the channel. We haven't put a video up in like 3 weeks, and that is mainly because I have been working a hell of a lot, and my work often takes me away, and so I can't always get in, but I have managed to get a good amount of time into 325. Absolutely loving Settlers. I'm not sure if you are still as well. There is, I'm feeling a bit of that gold pressure, like I keep trying to like fund gold to make sure that my town's fueled and all this stuff, but even though I do acknowledge the sort of the pressure and people's concerns around that, I think all in all I prefer the system as a whole than that drawback like brings a negative to it. I'm curious to hear what you think, what your sort of experience has been. I definitely think the power rune pricing is a little bit wild, and we can't really get access to those kind of amazing enchantments, which is a bit of a shame. But yeah, all in all, I've been loving 325. I'm still on the RF Chieftain. I actually have started another build, but I will do a video at some point just summarizing my experience of the league. But the main thing now, and my main mindset, is I want to keep working as much as possible. So videos might be a little bit quieter on the channel, but I want to basically work every day that God sends me and get as much money in as I possibly can, so that I can try and take as much time off around November 15th. We will be playing, if we can get in, we'll be playing on the 15th, and hopefully for at least a few days, weeks after that. So we're going to go hard. As you guys know, we're like a channel that's super hyped on PoE 2. And so it's all kind of building up to this. In between then, we're going to get lots of new information, I'm sure. We're going to get tons of stuff around crafting, endgame, ascendancies, the other classes, and just general design changes that they keep making. For example, adding in the melee, supportable basic melee attack for each weapon. So we've seen it in some of the gameplay that's been released, but things like you've got Mace Strike, a basic attack that you can support and get it to use different utilities, different gems. Maybe it's a rage generator, as would have been very nice in 325 Settlers. So yeah, just super hyped about PoE 2. I hope you are as well. I think that's enough for this one, and I will see you in the next one. As always, thank you very much for watching. Friends, exiles, ta-da.